Ship Happens, the show where crew tell their experiences of working on cruise ships, hosted by Jimmy Crew and Jolly Roger. Hi, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Ship Happens. I'm here with Jolly Roger and I'm Jimmy Crew. And I'm thinking the last episode where we're talking a little bit about all the different nationalities and also the different wordings that we have and the slang that we have on board and ship language.
Yeah, that's right.
But also, it's being having so many different nationalities. One thing that I think we can talk about on this episode is how many different positions we have on board. Because it's like Jolly Roger was mentioning is that it's basically a floating hotel, and for me, like a floating city, because you have uh, literally like restaurants, shops, casinos, all this stuff. So there's a lot of jobs to be done on board. And I know Jolly Roger, since he used to train some of the crew and staff, can probably tell us a little bit more of like all those different job opportunities, or in case somebody wants to join. And I always get the messages from friends like, "Hey, I want to work on ships. What should I do?" But basically, you can do anything that you do on land on board, plus a little bit extra since we're on a floating vessel, right?
Right, and this is I think this has been maybe the most useful episode of all of them because that's the most common question that we get asked constantly,
Hmm.
right? Like, what can I do? I want to go to the ship, or I want to change. I was doing this, and what can I do differently? Or is there any other jobs? So this can be very informative and funny. I hope
Oh yes, yes. Because I
episode,
mean,
right?
I think everybody that joins ships, for the most part, they always try to see other positions that they like, and they, once you come on board with whatever positions you have, you can always have the options to choose to change departments, or you have the team like Jolly Roger used to do, which helps you plan your career with whatever company or whatever ship line, cruise line that you're
That's why
working
we
with.
have
So
HR
if
department on the ship. Yeah, and then the HR
exactly, and
department
they
is
help you
is
that, but
yep. Uh,
how many do you think job opportunities or job descriptions do you have on board?
Oh, there's so many. I would say, phew, and they have departments. We can start like maybe with departments, and then in each department, there's many positions that you can start, and you can maybe be promoted or just
Or
start different
fired?
in different or fired and or
Yes.
transferred.
Or
But
transferred.
we have to say like once when you go to the ship, at least let's say from our countries, which is in Eastern Europe or India or some other countries. I don't know how it is in USA, but most of the people they're coming through all these cruises, and they have like these agencies all over the world, and agencies that recruiting agencies, right? So they usually specialized in few areas. So you will see that's how usually guests would ask me when I was doing behind the fun tour, which included guests that I would take them around the ship. One of the most common questions like how come so many Indians are cooks, or how come so many people from Philippines are in housekeeping, and so on? Because there are some departments that have a majority from one country, and not all of them, but many of them,
And I
and
understand also that they have
mhm,
agencies in those countries that specify to a certain position. So, for example, like you
exactly,
mentioned, India,
exactly.
they usually hire cooks because the agency in India that they go to is usually for cooks, or like in the Philippines, I guess for either
They're recruiting
housekeeping
cooks,
or
yes.
guest
So
service.
they're very
Exactly.
specifically the recruiting
And
cooks.
an example for a specific company like the one that we used to work for, you see a lot of the bridge and engine officers normally are Italian because for the most part they
True.
hire from a company out of Italy. So that's why in other companies, you have like British captains, you have Canadians and other nationalities, but in particular for this one particular company, they usually had an agency for specifically for Italians. So
And
not
this
that you're
is
not gonna see
again.
some. I saw some Romanians, Croatians, and other nationalities too.
I met few nationalities in the well. We're talking about, so the ship is divided. There's like a hotel part, which is hotel
Mhm.
director, and then there's a ship part, which is regular
Mhm.
sailors that went to school for that, like engine department and
Right.
bridge.
And the
and
bridge, yeah.
all these departments. So these are people that are not that are they went to school. They spend their entire career dedicated to become sailors. And hotel
Mhm.
part, this is regular people, just
Like us, that
because
I didn't go to
like us.
school and I just got whatever
Yeah,
job.
I'm just gonna go to the I'm just gonna go work in a hotel, which is coincidentally on the ship. And
Exactly.
that's so we have these big two divisions. That are on the ship. So for the for any type of sailors, you have to go to school for that. So if anybody is looking for career to be an officer or an engineer, something like that, you have to go to school. And that's why we have we countries that are that have these oceans and seas around them, like they have a long coast. They have these schools. Central European countries, they don't even have oceans or sea in on their borders, so they don't have these schools. So you will
Mhm,
never find, I don't know, from Slovakia, a bridge officer, right? Because
mhm,
they have nowhere to learn this stuff. That's why Italy is very famous for producing many sailors, and also Greece, Norway, USA, United Kingdom. I want to say Canada. They have maritime schools, academies that they can
mhm.
provide these people. So let's leave them aside because they already know. They don't need this information from us. But we
Yeah,
can
and
talk
the
about
majority
hotel.
of the people, yeah,
Yeah,
hotel would be the biggest department obviously on the ship because
the biggest, the
that's
biggest.
basically what all the guests will see. I mean, they won't see necessarily the engine room or the bridge, but they'll see the hotel and everything that makes up for working
Yeah,
at a
and
hotel
that's why
basically.
they're for vacation in a hotel that floats, right? So okay, so let's start. So in a hotel, we have different departments, so you can choose. Again, you can search agency in your area, in your region, like what they do, but you can request if there's some agency that you the specific job that you're looking for. You can search a little bit. You can apply even on some websites directly with the company they're looking. You don't even have to go through agency with some cruise lines, so you can do that. Also, they have this I forgot the word. You have to remind me. Uh, um, Gift shops and people companies that are not the company but they have concessions, right?
Yeah, and I think the way you were trying to explain it, I think it's probably be the best way. Like you have engine, you have the captain, and then a chief engineer. So like in the hotel, you have the hotel director who's in charge of like pretty much the entire hotel operation. So
Right.
everybody else falls ultimately underneath the hotel director, and you have from when you talked about the senior management, you have if maybe I get it incorrect, but I mean you have entertainment director who's in charge of all entertainment, like all the shows, music, the bands that you see all around the ship. The cruise director is in charge of that as well. On other ships, again, that varies, but for the most part, it's about the same infrastructure
Hmm.
or structure of management. Then you have would be a housekeeping manager, which is probably the biggest department, if I'm not
So we have,
mistaken.
yes, housekeeping department. Yep, yep.
Housekeeping department. You have also
Yes.
beverage manager or
Beverage
bar manager.
department, bar department.
So
Yes.
the most favorite people on the ship, the ones that get you drunk. You
Hmm.
have also
Restaurant
what else?
department, which is very large restaurant.
Food operations. Yeah, food manager, which is also, yeah, like you mentioned, the biggest one. And I forget what else you have.
Culinary arts, yeah, that's also food
That's also food. Yeah.
operations.
So yeah, I think those
And
four.
those are big ones, yeah.
Because like under entertainment you have also that falls under the gift shop. You have the shopping experts, they take you out at port. So within some departments you have all these other extra curricular jobs that you can do, for that example, like the shopping expert, the gift shop. Casino would fall on its own. Yeah, I think yeah, the casino
Casino
is
is also
actually an independent
concession, like a concession, right?
concession. Yeah.
Yeah.
And the
So
spa as well,
spa,
which is
you
also, yeah.
have spa, gift shop, and casino that are not part of the company, same company as the cruise line. So there's these
Correct, yeah.
three, and then
Oh, and
everybody else.
art.
Art department, yes.
That's right, yeah, that's
That's
another
right. That's the
concession.
fourth one.
So
And
concession meaning that they're not actually
so
hired by the same company, it's actually their own individual. Like the cruise line hires this outside company and they come on board and they set up their shop there. So It doesn't fall
You
under
you
the company.
employed by this company, not the cruise line.
Exactly.
Unlike everybody else in food department, entertainment, that they directly hired
Fall
by the
under
company cruise line.
the
Yeah.
cruise
So
line, yeah.
let's go one by one as much as we can think of, and maybe share a few words of our knowledge about
So
them.
since
So
I
you
was
start.
in entertainment, no, actually, well, I
You
started
were
as
guest service.
yes, I started in guest services,
So
and
tell me
I
about
started
that.
doing
Tell me about that. Yes, please.
okay,
What is
so
that
at
department
the
like?
first story, I started as guest services in the college, right? So I joined ecstasy. I was the last one, and within a week of doing all the training, because I get it's 2 weeks of like learning how the ship works and learning all the departments. Because I think it's one of the most thorough or departments because you have to know basically how each department works. Because guess what? The guests are going to come to guest services to either ask questions about every single department or complain for that matter. Uh, but I mean, for the most part, it's just questions like, "Oh, I want to know the dining room. I want to know my housekeeping. What time did they come here?" So we have
Hmm.
to have the knowledge for all that all
You're
around
kind
the
of
ship.
coordinating entire operations from the guest services
Exactly,
with
exactly.
all the
So,
other departments.
but after the first week of my college, of my guest services college, they actually pulled me into the office and they told me, "Hey, Jimmy, we have an opportunity for you. It's there's a position called groups coordinator." At that time, like I said, I was new to ships. I didn't had no idea what that even meant, and to my luck, I decided to accept it because it's another opportunity. It looks better in the resume. So basically, you're in charge of all the group functions that happen on the ship. The office plans events on the ship, with some guests, whether it's a party, whether it's a charter. A charter means that somebody rents the whole ship and they have like a huge event. One of them that I hosted was
Hmm.
Duck Dynasty, which is pretty popular in the United States. Tom Joyner, which is a radio host that has all these celebrities that come on board and they do concerts like R.
Mm.
Kelly, LL Cool J, Earth, Wind and Fire, etc. So that position was, to me, like super interested in,
R. Kelly
step.
before
Yes,
all
before he
this
went to
mess.
prison, yeah, before he was popular. Which I have some stories about him as well that made me go
Oh,
out to get some roses, and I didn't
uh,
really like him anyway. Anyway,
okay.
but that position, that job was
Were you all
super
right
interesting.
after that? Well, like
I
like
just I
mentally,
just
were you
wore a
like
raincoat.
curled up in
I was
your cabin and just sobbing and
I just wore a raincoat and I was safe when meeting him.
oh. Oh,
So
okay.
anyway, so
Uh,
so that was guest services, and it
I
was
wanna
a
know about the
special position.
about the infrastructure more of the guest service. Like how many people work there, and what's like the positions there that
So
you can be promoted or something like. What's the
right.
infrastructure in guest
So
services?
in guest services, you have guest services manager, and
Mm-hmm.
you have depending on the size of the ship, you can have about 10 to 15 guest services associates.
Okay.
Each associate, you have a guest services associate, which is just basically front desk, and they have different side duties. That varies depending on what you have, like luggage, different things. So then you have guest services supervisor, which is above guest services associate, and then you have assistant guest services manager, and then guest services manager. But you also have they're in charge of hotel admin. And again, this is back when I was there
Mm-hmm.
because now they have a different structure, a little bit different. The hotel admin is the person that is in charge of all the paperwork. Whenever we arrive at port, they have to make sure that we're cleared by customs, by the local authorities. So it's a lot of paperwork that has to be approved by the captain and the local
Right.
authorities. So we're able to dock at whatever port we go to. So it's sort of like an important position as well, because if you miss one paper or whatever, then we can't even dock, and that would be a lot of money. But that's another one of the positions. And
Okay.
then before, when I first started, there was also the groups coordinator position. Again, it was part of guest services, but didn't have any guest services duty. So you never had to be at the front desk. I mean, you had phone duties to answer the phone, like 2-3 hours a day, and that was it. And the rest you have to focus
Oh, okay.
on dealing with, like, with the VIPs or the guests. You had the diamond guests that you which again to me was like I hit the jackpot, because once I accepted this position, I finished the guest services college, and then I trained for another 2 weeks for groups coordinator. And then after that, it was like, wow, this is the coolest job. and to this day, it's probably the coolest job I've ever had. Because you're going out for dinners with the diamond guests and the captain, and you're going to these events and
Hmm.
parties, and people just love you because you're pretty much just showing them a good time.
I will
You have to
argue
make sure
that. I
that
mean, I think
everything.
my job was the best job on the ship, but okay,
But you
I'll
didn't
let
deal
you
you
have
didn't deal
that
with
one.
guests. I mean, for
That's
crew
why
members,
it was
yes.
the most
Mhm.
best job on the ship.
Exactly. Well, until I went over to get service, but that's another story. But I mean, again, for me, it was fun
Okay,
because
so
if they
let's.
had complaints, if they had wait, if they had complaints, I would just be like, oh, just go to get services. So
They deal with
I
a lot of complaints.
never.
So you have to have for all of these jobs, but you have
Oh
to have
yes,
personality, and you have to find. And most of the people that when you join the ship, you don't know what you're getting into, and
right,
I can tell you from HR perspective that because we were in charge in changing departments and all the complaints or so, etc. That. Lots of people they decide once they start working that they want to do some other job. They personality matches some other job on the ship more than the job they're currently on, and they have usually they have that this opportunity to change with time, to change into something else. So and I just want to say this is that's one of the guest services, and they're very important. And one thing that you forgot to mention that I find very fascinating that out of all the managers, head of departments, that there's quite a few on the ship, they kind of on the same level of management below hotel director. But out of all the
correct,
managers, the guest services manager is the one. He's like the first in all with all of them. How I don't know how to call first among equals. That in case hotel director is not on the ship, the guest services
right.
manager will take that role. So
Because
guest
again,
services
they're the
manager,
most overall, like,
yes,
knowledgeable about the ship. Because they deal
yes,
with all the different departments when it comes to complaints, as well as docking and ports. So they're really close in connection with the hotel director. Because they want to know arrival time. They want to know if there's an emergency on board. With guests, whatever.
right,
Guest
right.
services is the one that has to offload the patient
So not
or victim or
officially, but
whatever it is. So
technically, they kind of send second in command on the ship,
I
the
would
guest
say
service
I would in the
manager.
hotel. I mean, and once you see with your own eyes all the paperwork and things they have to do, I mean, you really realize that they do have a lot of responsibility. And just like the captain has all the other officers and staff captains to take
Yep,
over. And I think in the hotel operation business, the guest service manager would be the second in command, like you
second in
mentioned.
command. Yeah,
Even though not to say that in any case they would appoint some other head of the department to take over the hotel operations, but for the number one pick is usually guest services. But I've
yes.
seen entertainment directors take over or food managers take over, and while the hotel director's gone or not available, so or sick for that matter. So yeah,
Or
I
if
mean,
a guest service
it's
manager is not very capable or
correct,
in
exactly.
training. Yeah. Okay, so let's continue. There's so many departments that we need to cover. So I just thought, because it's right across, usually on every ship, right across from guest services, that you're looking at each other is shore excursion department,
Sure,
which is.
sure. I forgot to mention that one.
Yes,
Yes,
they small department. Usually, there's like three of them on the ships.
yeah,
There's a manager and two associates, and they're responsible for all the excursions in ports of call that ship is visiting. So they're kind of connected with all the adventures or some activities outside of the ship, and they're selling these programs. So you buy your cruise, and then on the cruise you can buy port adventures. Right. So this
right,
is
and
their
that's a fun
department.
job,
It's a
from
fun
from
job.
what I've seen. It's a fun job, because when you first start as an associate for Shore Excursions, you have to actually that part of your job is to do all the tours that you offer, so that way you can talk about the tours
Yeah, you can
as well
get.
as
You
guest
have to
services because
familiarize
you also
yourself.
sell the tours. Yeah, so guest services and Shorex always had to go on tours to actually be able to explain it to the guests. But I mean, you're talking about like, oh no, now I have to go to water tubing. Now I have to go jet skiing. Oh no, now I have to go parasailing and all these
Oh,
things. And
poor
you're like,
you.
wow, that's
Yeah.
their job. So the first couple of weeks for Shorex, their training is actually going and meeting all the people in charge of the tours outside in
Yep.
ports, and making a good relationship. Because you're sending them a lot of business and you want to keep a good relationship with them. So
Yep.
it's
I
it's
have
a
to
it's a
say,
fun
from
job.
HR perspective, this is one of the jobs that are in high demand. There are a few
Of
jobs on
course.
the ship that crew really, really love, and they really keep applying. And shore excursion guest services, not so much. Some people find themselves there, their personality, because it's very hectic. It's very you have to be very, very
You have to be
specific
tough. You have to be tough
profile.
because I mean,
You have to be
I, for
tough.
example, did get services for about 2 3 months, and I couldn't take it, because I'm too nice of a person, and if I have people yelling at me, I'm like, I'm trying to help you here. Like,
You
why are you
start
yelling at me?
crying.
So I started crying, happy place, happy place. So it wasn't for me, but I know some people from other countries that they enjoy this. Like I was
They
shocked.
love guest
They were
services
like,
job.
"Oh,
Yeah.
I just love when they're yelling at me, and I get to tell them, like to calm down." And I'm like, "But
Hmm.
how can you like that?" So it's not for everybody again, it's
Very.
tough, but it also
When I say like,
it has a lot
have
of it has a lot of what's it called? Uh
you
it's
have to
very
see you have to have a kind of masochistic personality for guest services.
Yeah, and like I said, 90% of the time you have like the nice guests, it has a lot of uh
You do. That's
good
true.
things of being a guest service. First of all, you're an officer, so you get to eat in the officer's mess and all these other privileges that come with being a guest services. And like I said, 90% of the guests, are usually fun and they just want to say thank you or whatever. You get a lot of letters and little gifts that they give you for helping them out with whatever they need. And then again, you have to be tough for the one or two that come in and start yelling at you or complain about something that you had nothing to do about. But anyway, uh,
Okay.
you're there to help him out and whatever. So it's not really for everybody, but I mean, like I said, it has a lot of privileges and advantages of being in that
All right.
department,
I think
for
we
guest
promote the
service.
guest services enough for today. I think we could move on. I
So
know you
okay,
love
so
it.
we were in adventures. So you have
Adventures.
excursions,
Yeah. Then let's talk quickly about these big departments that we mentioned. It's food and beverage, and
right?
this so bar department. They in charge of all the bars and around the ship, including like Lido deck, and they have everywhere, including coffee shop, or how do you
Coffee
call it?
shop, you're right.
Coffee shop,
Yeah,
right?
the
A-
barista or
and
depending.
and interestingly, candy shop also. It falls
Oh, that's
under
right.
bar department. Yes,
Bar,
and
correct.
yes. So there you have many. You can be bartender, you can be bar waiter. I mean, everybody wants to be a bartender eventually, but you have to pass some exams. You join as a bar waiter. That means that you're on carrying a tray, and then you go to guests and serve drinks. And then bartender, he just keeps the bar. And so these, and then you have again manager, assistant managers, one or two in that department. In food department, that's two separate, like a mini departments, not as much. Restaurant, and then you have culinary arts, which is completely different. You have a chef there in culinary arts,
Right.
which is in charge of all the cooks and all the food, and then you have a maitre d in charge of restaurant departments, and they both uh, 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 report to food operations manager, right? He's a head
Right.
of department. And then which one was the housekeeping? Yes, the last and maybe the
Right. The
biggest one,
biggest one.
housekeeping department, which housekeeping manager. And then again, you have so many positions that you can go there as a cabin stewards that you have, usually two per room. If you're a guest, you know this. And cabin stewards, you have people that go around the ship. They're not in charge of cleaning rooms, but they're in charge of the cleanliness of the ship in general, like Lido
Right.
deck and all
The
these
public
other
areas.
things, public areas, correct. Uh, so this is housekeeping, and they're very busy, and they have so many some training of housekeeping includes when they first contract, they clean and prepare room for staff members, for crew members, right? Higher positions, management rooms. So that's part of their training. So before they can move to cleaning guest rooms, they learn how to change the sheets in a crew or in the management or some higher crew positions in their cabins. And then if they complete that successfully, then they will be moved to the guest rooms. Same with the waiters. They usually start on the ship serving and helping with the food in the crew mess and the staff mess, and then they will be moved to room service, and then from room service they will be moved to Lido deck, where they will just clean and set the food. And then if they pass all these three successfully, all these three tests, then they will be moved to the restaurant. So I don't know if you know that, but this is how you get promotions on the ship. And you don't just go there and just start directly working in at a restaurant. Like you need to climb the ladder to get to there. And so these are the biggest departments, and most of the people get their first job in one of these big departments that you can
Right,
find on the
and we
ship.
forgot also, an important one that, all the
Yep,
guests, a lot of them go to is entertainment. You have all the, dancers, the entertainment, the
yep.
bands.
Entertainment department is again one of the biggest department on the ship, not as
That's
big as
right,
housekeeping and then
right.
food operations, but also includes a lot of people and a lot of different how do you say skill sets,
Positions, because exactly,
positions.
because you have, like, all the dancers, and in fact, like, my last position there was part of entertainment, but, I mean, you
Hmm.
have, like, the people that do the dancing, and again, they also, are in charge of, like, the shopping expert, which is the person that goes out and takes you out shopping in the ports, but you also have, youth, like, all the, children that come on board, there's a department that takes care of your kids. They have, like, little clubs for them, so they can take
Yes.
care of your kids, from all different ages, up until 17, because after 18, you're free to do whatever you want.
So this is
But I mean, you
basically
have
you're like a teacher, or you need kind of teaching experience to get to that job, to apply for that job, as
right, exactly. So you have to
to
have a
work with
certain skill. I
children,
mean, obviously, I could never
certificates.
dance, or we could never be dancers, but you have to be skilled in a certain department. Like you have the people from the band. I mean, I can't play a single instrument to save my life. So you have to have a certain specific skill when it comes to entertainment for the most part.
So let's talk about
Uh,
musicians for a moment. So how do you get a job as a musician?
Well,
Do you know?
some people, yes, there's some people that actually travel together as a band, and they applied as a band. But also, there's some different studios in the U.S., or depending on the company, where they
Right.
actually uh, mix and match the different bands. They have a guitarist, a drummer, and they put them together, and that's how they create the band. So
That's
for many
interesting.
parts, maybe there's only one person that can sing, but there's another guy that can sing, so they put them together. Then they get a drummer, then they get a bass player, a guitar player, and then they make the band together. From what I've seen, also there's also bands, especially that there was very popular. There's a lot of Filipino bands, and in the Philippines, I mean, music is huge. They have some of the best bands ever. They memorize so many songs and whatnot, so they have a big inventory of songs. So they
Oh,
usually
did you know
travel
Bruno
together.
Mars is half Filipino?
Yes, I did. I
Yeah,
did.
you did. Yeah. Oh, okay. I didn't know that.
Yeah,
I mean,
Bruno.
I found out on the ship. They're very proud of him. Yep.
Oh, of
Uh,
course, yeah, they promote
yeah,
and
and if
whatnot.
anybody
But
can
I mean,
dance,
they're very
Bruno
talented,
Mars.
very talented.
Oh my God,
Exactly.
he's a genius. I love him. And but also there's this for bands and musicians in general, they can send their like demo, or they record themselves, and they send this to Miami office, and this is like the first step
Right.
of application, and then
And
they
then
will
they have
choose
interviews. Right.
interviews, and then they will choose based on their performance. It's not just like you don't send CV like rest of us, right? For musicians,
Right.
you send your work
Performance. Yeah.
and then performance, and they so then the process starts, and then they will send you here and there, as you said. But it's not only bands that we have. They try to have more varieties on the ship, so you usually have a band that's like, include like four people, then you have duo, or at least sometimes even two people, like duo, like two girls, or guy and a girl. You have country music musicians that play only country music.
Correct.
You
And then you
have
have
solo.
violinists too. Like, yeah, yeah,
Oh yes,
violinists too. They come
we
on board.
have
It's
we
like
have
three or two. That's one of my
like
favorite too. Like, they
they
play
play this, yes,
uh,
violins. Yeah, you have solo musicians, they play piano or some other instrument, and they just
guitar, right?
guitar. Yeah, so they're just one person there. And so there's a variety in musicians, so there's many, and they all, this is just one part of entertainment. Then you have, as you mentioned, like dancers and singers in charge for all the shows in the main
Who also
lounge.
they have auditions too. They send their videos, and then they put them together with that team for the
Right.
most part. They don't know there. They actually, just meet once they get all together, and they work together and learn the
Right.
dances and whatnot.
And then you have entertainment stuff that I mentioned in the previous episode. My roommate was one of them. They in charge of like just
Right.
entertaining guests of with different games and then stand up comedy and all this other stuff that's entertainment. It's a huge department and there's
Bingo. Right,
bingo
right.
and all this. And you have the head of department is entertainment director, right?
Correct. And of course, we can't forget probably the face of the ship, which is the cruise director.
Cruise
He's the
director,
person, yeah,
yes.
which is the person that makes sure that you're having a good time and tells you everything that's going on the ship. So that's also, I would say, another important position on the ship, because
Oh
that's
yes,
probably the
crucial,
most
crucial position,
memorable face that
memorable.
people are
Yeah.
gonna see when they come on board. He's gonna entertain you. He's gonna help you
Yep.
out as much as they can, and introduce like all the shows and everything that they have on board for you.
Yeah.
So that's
So
also a very
again, another department that's gonna create a lot of good memories for you is photo department. So they are also
exactly. I
good
forgot about that too.
department to be in. It's fun. They belong to staff members, and usually depends on the ship. You have around, I want to say, like 7 to 8 photographers. You have a gallery director, and you have a manager. And I believe there's one more position. I think yes, there's the technicians, people who develop your
Oh, right.
pictures,
Well, that falls
lab
under. Oh
lab
well, you have the
technicians.
technician, but also in entertainment, you have all the technicians as well, like the people that deal with all
Oh
the
yes,
lighting. That's an important one too, because if there's no music, you can't be on a ship without any music. So if something's not working, they're the ones that are gonna fix, the lighting or the music in the promenade or in the theater. So they're the ones in charge of being backstage with all the
now that you mentioned,
entertainment.
I just remember our good friends. There's Charles and Jade. They got married. She was a dancer, and he was a tech.
Tyser, yeah, I know.
Yes, and they just got married. They got two beautiful twin girls, and just say hi to them if they ever listen to this, and to greet them. I'm
And they
so
met on
happy for
board,
them.
right? They've been
They
on
met
board.
on
They've been
board,
on
and
board.
they were one of my favorite two people before that they start dating. And then when I heard like they start dating, I was so happy for them. And then they got married. They're not working on the ships, and they just like recently, I want to say like a few weeks ago, they got these beautiful twin girls. And congratulations to them if they ever
So
listen to this. I
so
just had
so
to
love
mention
can
this.
happen on
Oh
board. And
yes,
again, that's gonna be another episode about relationships on board. So
we
people
will
say like,
talk
"Oh,
about that.
you can't have
Yes,
a you can't have a relationship." Or like, so there you go. You have like plenty of like those stories, but also for the majority of the part, it's an amazing love ship
we're
stories
gonna
that we
we're
have
gonna
for
we're
you.
gonna talk about all the fun romantic stories that happening on one other episode. But so photographers, I mentioned photographers. They again, it's they usually outside in the ports taking pictures outside, and then on nights when on sea days they taking pictures with all these beautiful backdrops. They taking fabulous pictures of and creating memories for all the guests that they can buy. These pictures they can get digital. So that's it's not I don't want to say it's easiest job. There's no easy job on the ship. I mean, we all
No,
work
no,
very
no.
hard, and but it's an interesting, it's a very creative job, and it's a very interesting job to have on the ship. If anybody considering going there, and if you have these skills, you can do that. And I was a photographer at one point on the ship. It wasn't my cup of tea, but
I
yeah,
know.
it
I
was
saw
it
your
was
pictures that were horrible. So
no,
thank goodness
actually,
you got out of there.
my pictures were bestsellers. But I just didn't. I love taking. I will tell you what my issue was. I would love taking pictures. I just didn't know how to sell because I'm a terrible at sales. I have no
I
sales
could tell. I
at
could tell
all.
by talking to you.
Yes, I have no sales skills at all. And part of your job as a photographer is not only to take wonderful pictures, but to sell them as well and sell as much as you can, as many as you can. So that's one of the things. But then what we have, you mentioned this department of spa, gift shop, and art gallery. They don't belong to the companies, but we all work together and we live together. So the spa
Right.
department, we can start with them.
Once you're aboard, everybody's the same. We're on the
We
same
are
roof,
the same,
so
yes.
you're
And
you're at
same
home with
rules,
all of
everything
us.
is the same. Everything is the same. Just the
Correct. So
paycheck
you
is
have to
coming from
adhere to the
different
rules of the
employer.
right. Exactly. But also, let's not forget, last but not least, I mean, I think we mentioned every single department, you know, unless we missed another one, and depending on the company as well. But I mean, the HR department, who's in charge of like all the crew members, basically.
HR department is usually 5 or 6 or
MSA.
7 people. That includes a crew office, includes a training center, and HR
What does the
director
crew
above
office
all of
do?
them.
What, tell us a little bit of what the crew office
Crew
does.
office, crew office. There's 2 or 3 people there. Their responsibility is to assign the cabins, to all the paperwork, basically administration, all the administration. Like guest service is doing administration for the guest, crew office is doing administration for the crew. So they
And
basically
is that
guest.
hectic or what? I mean, because every time
That's
I
very
join a ship,
hectic.
you know, and you have about 100, 200 crew members, sometimes even more. You have crew members that are leaving the ship, and imagine all the paperwork you have to do for over 1,000
but
crew
but let
members,
me tell you
and you
something that
go
you did,
there, and
that
it's
happened
insane.
before your time. Maybe you didn't know this, but crew office belong was part of guest services belong before this.
I heard
And
that,
then
yes.
before HR department was created, that they were part of guest services, and then they were joined to HR department. And also
Wow.
trainers, they were separate, and then they were also merged into one department. And it's a small department, but it's very important. And again, this is the only department that are not we're not professional sailors, as I mentioned, like bridge and engine, but we are responsible. We belong to under the captain and under the officers ranks, because
Oh,
HR
wow.
director HR director is in the group with the captain and chief engineer, not with the hotel director.
Oh, I
And the
didn't know
reason,
that.
oh
That's a nice
yes,
fun fact that I don't know.
very, and the reason for that,
Which we'll
it's
add
very
also to,
logical.
another episode as well, you know, that the fun facts about ships, about things like that, you know, that I didn't
We
know
will, we will, we
that
will.
it
But
fell under the captain, yeah.
just want to say quickly that that's because it makes sense when you think about it, because it's the HR to not to be biased, right? So
Right,
to prevent influence from the hotel, they put
right.
HR under the captain. And I think we mentioned, at least we didn't talk as much as about all of them, but I think we mentioned most of the departments. And
Yeah,
then
I think we did, yeah.
in each department, there's many many more positions. We have steakhouse again, and then all these
Right.
specialty restaurants, which they have their own chefs, but they're all again under main chef, and so on and so on. So there are many
Yeah, and
opportunities for
eventually
you
we maybe
guys,
we'll have some other people from different departments to come and talk in a little
and
bit about their
they will
experience too.
explain more. Yeah, absolutely, I agree.
Mhm.
So if you guys, thinking about joining the ships or thinking about changing departments, you can go, if you're on the ship, and see what's out there. If you're outside, these are departments, these are the jobs that are like, you can consider working, and you're gonna have so much fun, right? We can promise you that.
All right, well, I guess we'll, wrap it up now, and, we'll see you for the next episode of Ship Happens.
Absolutely. So you guys take care, and join us in the next episode. All right.
Take care, bye.